way. Really quick, we're really efficient with this. It is German after all, so we get really efficient with this. All right. It looks like their instructions have been given. Mr. Prime Minister, are you ready?
I'm Vladdy Guerrero Jr.
Oh, he says he's Vladdy Guerrero Jr. He is about to spank that spigot out of the park, ladies and gentlemen. So that means we gotta get super loud for him. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, spank that spigot!
Mark Carney is doing that to our economy. Don't pretend that that's a keg of beer. Pretend that that's our Canadian economy, and he's just bringing the hammer to it. Anyhow, gang, Aaron here, Canadian Looney. Let's take a look. We've got Jivani, one of our favorite MPs to watch on here. He's interactive. He knows how to speak to people. After Jivani, we'll have Andrew Lawton, another one of our favorites to watch on here, in committee, blasting away at a liberal sociologist. Let's take a peek. Let's get into it.
Hey, that's something everyone can enjoy.
I find it outrageous, to be perfectly honest with you. I'm just being real.
So, evidently you guys stand for a lot of things. There's the criminal justice stuff, there's the freedom of speech stuff, which is all great. But I think the core of the Conservative Party is the economic policies. So, I've got 2 questions for you guys. First, looking at your platforms, a common theme is reducing the role of government and increasing the role of for-profit organizations. Profit can only be increased relative to revenue by either paying workers less or charging customers more. As workers and customers, why should we vote for people giving more money and power to for-profit organizations, the same billionaires and mega corporations price gouging our rent and groceries? It's common sense not to trust the federal government, but why not instead subsidize not-for-profits or municipal-level government programs? Second question, less important than the first question. Another common theme in your platforms is the culture war, fighting against woke and DEI. The rising cost of living shows that the real divide in Canada is between people charging prices and the people paying prices. In the light of these serious economic problems, why are you keeping people divided for gender identity and skin color?
So I'm going to answer your second question first, because I find it outrageous, to be perfectly honest with you. I'm just being real. The people promoting DEI are the ones dividing us based on skin color. And the people who want opportunity distributed fairly and public services distributed fairly, regardless of what you look like or where you come from, those are the people seeking to bring us together. I would ask you very humbly, since you seem to have a problem with big corporations, why do you think Rogers and Bell advertise their DEI policies while charging Canadian consumers some of the highest cell phone bills in the entire world? Why do the big banks, who seem to do just fine in our economy despite the youth unemployment rate continuing to rise, promote DEI policies? Do you believe it's because they have a genuine interest in making things fair or easier for the average Canadian consumer? Or is it because it's a way to virtue signal and make it look like they care about the average person when they're really actually putting forward policies and a way of doing business that makes life harder and harder for the average person? So I would say with great confidence, that in pushing back against DEI, we are actually increasing the likelihood that all people are treated fairly, that people can come together, and that we might hold those powerful corporations you're concerned about accountable for what they're actually putting people through, which is a cost of living crisis. And we have been the party to push back against oligopolies more than anyone else in Ottawa, whether it's through groceries, banking, telecommunications. We believe the average Canadian consumer deserves more choice and that we will benefit from more competition. And that's what you get when you emphasize the role of the private sector in our economy. It's not about giving money away to big business. It's about saying no one small collection of businesses deserve to control the industries that we all depend on in order to function and survive in this society. So that's the answer to your second question. Do you want to ask a follow-up? Because I went kind of hard on you there. I'm happy to,
And thank you for the
presentation. Yeah, appreciate it.
I can respond to the second question if that was the intention. If not, that's okay.
No, if I didn't answer any part of your questions, you're welcome to clarify.
No. The second question was good. I think we definitely agree on not liking monopolies and oligarchies, although I think historically, looking at the policies of the Conservative Party, it usually seems to benefit the big businesses already in power more than the small businesses trying to start up. And there's still the issue of relying on for-profit organizations in the first place.
Well, there's certainly some services that I'm a believer that the public sector should provide. I mean, we are in a country that prides itself on someone never having to go broke because they're sick. And I think that's something we should always stand by and fight for. I really believe that. I'm a cancer survivor. I would probably be 6 figures in debt right now if I was in another country. But because I was in this country, diagnosed at 30 years old, I was able to be taken care of and I didn't have to worry about my mother and my sisters, right? So, but at the same time, I believe that monopoly is always going to be a problem if you don't have balances of power. And when the federal government continues to grow, as the private sector shrinks, as more and more people become dependent on the government in order to earn a living, we are giving an increasing amount of power in the hands of bureaucrats who sit around in Ottawa. And as someone who has to drive to Ottawa every week, I can tell you, the bureaucrats in Ottawa don't understand your life. They don't know what you're going through, and they shouldn't have more power than is absolutely necessary to determine what our country is like and the opportunities that are available to you.
Mr. Lawton. Thank you, witnesses, for your time and testimony today. I'd like to start with you, if I could, Dr. Myers. You mentioned that the bail system is the harshest it's ever been. Those were your words. Do you think bail should be made easier to access after the culmination of our research here?
I think it absolutely needs to be more readily available for a lot of people in custody. I think we can acknowledge that there are some people who are perhaps too risky or the allegations are too serious. We want to focus our attention on those, not an automatic decision to detain, but to be able to focus on those. We need to make release more available for all kinds of others who are there for more minor reasons.
So what are the sorts of offenders that are being detained pre-trial now that you think should be getting bail and aren't and don't have it available to them?
Most of the folks that have been charged with nonviolent offenses.
Okay.
And that would be the bulk of the individuals that go through our bail court.
You talked about in your career as an academic, quote, interviewing justice officials and accused individuals.
Yes.
You didn't mention victims, victims of crime. Have you interviewed them as part of your research?
No, I study the criminal justice system, not rather than what happens with victims.
Do you think that the experiences of victims should have any bearing on how offenders are treated by the justice system?
Absolutely. The victims are critically important in all of this, but nonetheless, we need to remember the very important constitutional rights that we have and that those must absolutely be protected, and that while there may be harm to victims, we can provide those supports that they may need outside of the criminal justice system where they would be far better served.
But why in 20 years of researching this has interviewing victims not factored in if you think they do have a role to play in the way these decisions are made and these policies are drafted?
Because it has not been part of my research agenda. I've spent the time sitting in court and talking to those who I'm interested in the process of bail. I'm sitting in court. I've heard from many of victims about their experiences that comes out in the open court.
So you do indicate that people should, I'm paraphrasing, but you said they should be punished after a conviction. Yeah. So who should be held behind bars pre-trial in your view?
I think a very limited number of people. If we go back 40 years, we used to be sitting much closer to about 20 or 30% of those in our provincial jails were in pretrial detention. I suspect those are the folks that needed to be there, while other folks were able to be better managed in the community.
Do you think that anyone who's charged with first-degree murder should be behind bars pretrial?
I would leave that to the decision makers to properly examine the information that's been provided to assess the risk and make those decisions.
So you think bail for first-degree murders is actually legitimate at times?
I think in some circumstances it could be possible. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not the one making these determinations, and I trust the professionals who have all of the available information to be able to make the appropriate decision in these cases.
Another comment you had made was that we cannot predict future behavior. You were basically you were saying that we can't predict who will commit future offenses. So I would assume from that you're against 3 strikes, you're outlaws that have been proposed, correct?
Absolutely.
So how many convictions is enough for the system to actually say, we have a pretty good indication this person is going to reoffend?
Well, you know, we might be able to look at measures that indicate that somebody has a record of offending, and those are exactly the kinds of pieces of information that are considered by those who are making bail decisions.
So you do think multiple convictions you do think should actually count against someone in their bail eligibility?
I think it should be a factor that is considered and weighed appropriately. It should not be the driving and the only reason. Each one of those convictions, that individual's already been punished and held accountable for those offenses. At some point, we have to acknowledge that they have moved on. Let's focus on what the allegations are saying of what they've done now.
So someone who's committed murder against an intimate partner, someone who has robbed a bank, someone who has committed violent offenses, they
Allegedly.
are arrested. No, I'm talking about someone who's convicted. They have 5 convictions under their belt. Your view is that that is a clean slate if they've already served their sentence the next time they're up for bail?
I said nothing about it being a clean slate. I said
You did. You
absolutely
said they've
no.
already paid their price.
They have paid that price, but nonetheless, the criminal record is a critical component that is considered by decision makers when making the evaluation on the level of risk. We cannot perfectly predict. We can make predictions on the basis of offenses or records, but they are imperfect, meaning we are getting it wrong a lot.
I think it is extraordinary that Mark Carney has become the Prime Minister of Canada. He did a terrible job in Britain.
Broken, Canada's broken, and Canada's broken because we're stupid. Okay? Canada's broken because we're stupid.
These are Muslim values. These are Canadian values.